So one of the things that bugged me about the demo I did yesterday and uploaded yesterday was I never measured the current draw, and I've got this wonderful Dave Jones microcurrent that I bought some time ago, and I figured I'd measure how much draw this thing gets. And you know, in just about every mode, I'm getting 1.2 milliamp draw. That's not exactly low power. Of course, you know, we're talking about 3 volts, 1.2 milliamp. You know, that's a fraction of a watt, you know, 0.3 watts about. Still, that's not exactly low power. This thing is supposed to run on nanoamps, at least when it's sleeping. And I can't get it to go to sleep. So I'm going to hack up some of the programs here and see if I can figure out how I can get this thing to go into sleep mode. It's supposed to draw no more than a couple nanoamps when it's sleeping. So let's take a look at that. So what you see here is I took the BLE beacon program from the ARM compiler on the Embed website, and I hacked it up. I commented out all the BLE classes, all the BLE methods, because if this thing initializes with the ARM methods, it's going to draw 1.2 milliamps no matter what I do. So when I commented all that out, and I got all this low-level stuff, this actually just sets the clock, sets the prescale on the clock, and sets an interrupt. And this interrupt this starts the whole thing running. And then this guy here is the interrupt handler, which just clears the flag. And all this does is call the hardware wait for event, WFE wait for event. Notice I've commented out the ARM wait for event. And by doing all this in hardware, I do achieve a much lower current draw. So it really does go into low power. And I'll show you that in a sec. So let's see what's going on here. I've got the BLE Nano board connected to this little tiny coin cell battery. It's a 3-volt coin cell battery. And then I'm measuring the current with the Dave Jones microcurrent. I've got the setting on 1 microamp per millivolt. And I'm running a program that's got a timer, and every 5 seconds the timer trips, wakes up the BLE board, and then it goes back to sleep again just about immediately. It's not doing anything, it's just waking up and then going back to sleep and sleeping for 5 seconds and then waking up again. And what you're seeing here is that in sleep mode we're using, what's this thing, about 6 millivolts, so that would be 6 microamps. And maximum, kind of hard to see, it's going to about 1.2 volts. Let's take a look here what we got here. Yeah, so our max is 1.2 volts, so that's like 1250 millivolts, which means it's about 1.2 milliamps max it's taking. And then the minimum here is 0.0059 volts, so that's about 6 millivolts. It means 6 microamps. So when the thing is sleeping, it's using about 6 microamps, and when it's awake, it's using about 1.2 milliamps. So 6 microamps when it's sleeping, 1.2 milliamps when it's awake from that little battery. Well, I failed to figure out how to get it to go into low power mode between advertising events. What I'm trying to do is get it to advertise, get it to send its little ID out, go into low power, sit there for a couple seconds, and then wake up and do the same thing. I can't seem to do that. I've got it advertising every 5 seconds, but as you can see, it seems to be drawing, well, I don't know what it's drawing. My little Dave Jones-o-meter is kind of wonky on me. So if I go into millivolts per milliamp mode, I seem to be drawing 4.7 milliamps. If I go into nanoamps per milliamp per millivolt mode, I seem to be drawing 1.2 milliamps. And if I go into microamps per milliamp mode, I seem to be supplying a negative 5.8. So my little Dave Jones-o-meter is kind of wonky. Probably the battery's sort of dead. in any case, what we can see is it's not decreasing in value when every 5 seconds. It should wake up, send its little ID, and then go back to sleep again, and that doesn't happen. Well, okay, this is probably a programming error on my part. I'll figure it out sooner or later. But the main thing is you can see that when it does go into low power mode, it draws a very, very small amount. And when it wakes up, it draws about 1.2 milliamps. And that seems to be the tail of the tape no matter what I do. You know what I hate? I hate spending half a day on a Sunday, on a football Sunday, spinning around in circles trying to get something to work when the code that I got off the embed website is just wrong, just plain wrong. And that's why I was getting some crazy readings. I could never get it to go into sleep mode. And in fact, if the code had been written correctly, it would have gone into sleep mode and everything would have been fine. What I've got it doing now is I've got it sending out its little advertisement once every 2 seconds and then going to sleep. In sleep mode, as we see here, now let's see, I've got the little Dave Jones ohmmeter set to 1 millivolt per microamp. So the minimum I'm seeing here is about those are volts, so that's about 6 millivolts I'm getting. So that means its minimum is 6 microamps. So that's what it's drawing when it's sleeping. When it's awake and it's sending out its little pulse, I'm getting 130 millivolts, so it's 130 microamps. So that's not so bad. This is actually pretty darn low power. The reason it was drawing so much before is it was actually in an infinite loop. And I'll show you why. And it was looping, and it was just sucking down power like mad. And that was just wrong, and it was due to the way the code was written. I'll show you in a second. Okay, so what was going on here in the code? Let's just see. Here's my little beacon scanner. As you can see down here, it's reading the BLE. Oh, see, it goes off, it comes back. I've got it going off every 2 seconds and coming back every 2 seconds. And why weren't we going into low power mode? Well, here's the main program here, and we can see what we're doing is just 3 simple things. We're checking, we're initializing the BLE object, and then we just want to hang here while it's initializing, and I guess it does a bunch of things, and it probably takes a while. Now, the way this was written was that little knot was not there. Okay, so what it was doing is initializing this object, supposedly hanging here while it waited for it to initialize, and then once that was true, it would drop down here and just loop here forever, and send out up here. The little advertising thing was started in a separate process, and it would sit here. When advertising went off, it would do this wait for event, which would put it into low power mode. When the advertising event would come on, it would go back into high power, transmit, etc., etc. Well, what was going on here was it was sitting here because BLE has initialized would be true when it initialized. My guess is it was dropping into here, it was initializing this, that was happening quickly, and then this would be true. And it would sit here forever, and it would never get down there. Now, it would sit here forever, and that's fine. This little process here, this little side process that's advertising, would advertise just peachily, happily advertising, but you'd never drop into low power mode. It would never do this wait for events. So what I did was I put a little bang there, a little knot, and that says hang here when this is 0, when this is not initialized. When it becomes true, then drop into there. And, you know, I don't know. I guess the thing is that they wrote this code. They saw that it was advertising, and they said, hey, it must work. Well, it wasn't working. It was never going into low power mode. Now it is. Okay, cool. So we got that working. We got that debugged. That only took, I don't know, 4 hours to figure out, because I assumed this whole thing was right. I got into the API for the BLE. I learned a lot about the way it's set up. It's actually quite simple, and it's pretty cool. And someday I think I may use this thing to drive some robots or you know, turn on my Tesla coils or something like that from a distance. It is pretty cool. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. I do appreciate it. I hope this little update was useful for you. Have a good rest of your day and enjoy YouTube. And thank you. Please send me a thumbs up or subscribe or whatever the heck it is you'd like to do. And I do appreciate you hanging around. Thanks.